everybody, Dead Girl here, and happy Wednesday. Joining me this evening is a very talented artist. He has worked on some DC stuff, some Marvel stuff. He's also doing some work with Shudder's Creep Show and tons more, and we're going to get into all that fun this evening. I have Mr. Thomas, is it Tenney? Teeny? How do I pronounce the last name? Tenney, thank you. Thank you for joining us this evening.
I'm happy to be here.
Now, there might be some folks out there who are not familiar with you or with your artwork, which personally I'm a little bit offended, but that's okay. So if you don't mind, would you tell the folks at home a little bit about yourself?
Well, I started in comics professionally in 1985, 86, doing the Robotech series, which was the anime that was real popular. We were doing the comic book version of it. Then I jumped over to do some work with Marvel, DC, and got caught up with Image, and then went back to Marvel, then went to AC/DC, and went into music, and then came back to comics, and ended up on working on TV shows and films. Like I worked on the Terminator stuff, and then I ended up working with Creep Show.
Did you, now I've got to ask you this. Of course, when you initially started doing your artwork, was the plan ever to go professionally with it, or did you just kind of think it would be just a fun hobby and something to do just to get some of that stress out?
Well, it was kind of weird. I was When I was a kid, they kind of thought of me as an art prodigy, so I kind of got treated a little different. And people thought, okay, my teachers treated me a little weird. They gave me all these weird projects to do, and they'd hand me an art book and say, here, just draw on this, and we'll grade you an A now. But I wasn't interested in it. I was interested in playing guitar. My father was a musician, so I wanted to be a musician. But then I ended up doing a portrait of like presidents, and somehow it got to Ronald Reagan.
Okay.
And then I met Ronald Reagan, and he wanted me to do a portrait. So I did a portrait for Ronald Reagan.
Oh, wow.
So after that, he was like, you should be an artist. I was like, okay. Then I ended up doing something for the Pittsburgh Steelers for the Super Bowl. Now, I was like a kid. I was only like 15, 16 years old.
Wow, really?
Yeah, so I was like, I thought Ronald Reagan was interesting because of his face. I don't know why, but like I didn't know anything about politics. I didn't care. I was just like, interesting dude, so I'll just do this. And then after that, I got into doing music, but figured there was no career in this. You're slogging at a bar hoping you can get a job. Now, mind you, if I get a little salty with my language, I am from New Jersey, so
It's
I'll give you
okay.
that. But I ended up doing that. And I figured there's no big paycheck in music. So I started doing art just on the side again. And I met a guy, and he said, well, he worked in comics, and he said, why don't you ever draw like comic book stuff? So I entered they had a Marvel tryout book.
Okay.
And just out of the blue, someone gave it to me. I drew in it, sent it to Marvel, and said, hey, but nothing comes of this, no big deal. I ended up coming in second place behind Mark Bagley, who's very well known for Spider-Man.
Oh, wow.
So I ended up taking the work to a comic convention, which I like the only second one I've ever been to in my life. Met Terry Austin, who's a legendary X-Men anchor. And Terry said, well, you got a career in this. And he tried to shoot me over to a job with Jim Shooter, who was editor-in-chief of Marvel, said, why don't you hire him? And Jim's like, well, he needs some experience. I didn't know shit.
Right. And
So
that always kills me when they say you need experience. Well, then give me some.
exactly. And it was like, well, getting the independence. Well, Jim was right, though. I didn't know storyboards. I didn't know sequential art. I didn't know shit. But I could draw, and then I just started learning it quickly. And then I got hired at Kamika to do Robotech because I was drawing these anime characters. And everybody loved anime, and everybody was like, you should be drawing Robotech. I was like, I started watching it and drawing it. And next thing I know, I'm hired on to do Robotech.
Oh,
And
wow.
man, everybody thought, okay, he's just going to be a manga artist, an anime artist. And I thought, this is not my thing. I'll just do it for now and get out of this. So
Yeah.
put some money away from music and get some better equipment. Then all of a sudden, I was like hired on to do Terminator. I was like, okay, now this is starting to go somewhere. And then there was Marvel and then DC. And I was like, oh, fuck it. This is my career.
This is what I do now.
Yeah, screw it. I'm stuck.
Now, are you I know you mentioned that you kind of got like you start out with the comic books and everything, and then you got to be able to do some other things. Do you have a preference? Like, prefer to do comics? Do you prefer to work on the movie stuff or the horror related stuff?
It's interesting. When I got into doing comics, I had done it for a while. I had done it from 85 till 96.
Oh
And then I
wow.
got an opportunity to work with AC/DC. And when I did that, I was like, those old feelings of music came back, and I wanted to get into music. And I met a guy on the road who had worked with Bill Graham, legendary promoter Bill Graham. He was his right-hand guy.
Oh wow.
And he said to me, he goes, we should get business together. You know music. I know music. Let's start this company. Let's work with indie bands. And I was like, well, you know what? Had a good career in comics. Let me go sideways, not, And so I went back to music for a while, and I took what I learned in comics and put it into music. And I
Wow.
worked in music for like 15 years. So I was doing videos. I was doing this. I ended up directing 3 documentaries on comics and music that were like insane. I was like, all of a sudden I'm doing all this, but then I had I was over in Europe and I had been up 72 hours straight. I
Oh.
hadn't eaten a thing. I was living off of coffee and cigarettes.
I mean, that's the diet when you're younger, you know.
And I was 72 hours straight. I'd flown back to LA to do an interview with a magazine. And then I got to, we were doing a sound check, and I got to the stage of the sound check, and I dropped.
Oh
Pure
no.
exhaustion. I ended up in the hospital for a week.
Oh
Pure
wow.
exhaustion. And they were like, you got to stop. I was like, yeah, I think it's time to get back to comics.
You need to rest a little bit and do something that's not as crazy. Cause
Yeah.
that's a long time, man. 72 hours. Jeez, dude.
Yeah, and flying around too. And that was stupid. But you get around these musicians and they're like Supermen. They're like the roadies, especially. They can go all night long, and you're like, I can keep up with these kids.
And you can
Uh,
for a little while, right? You keep up for a little bit, and then eventually the bottom drops out, and there goes that.
well, I just forgot I was getting older. That was the only problem.
Your
I was
mindset was still young, but the body was
oh
just not there with you.
yeah, the mind was willing, the body wasn't.
Exactly. Now you've done some amazing things, with music and with comics and everything else. Do you have a memorable experience, something that will stand out to you this day that you always look back on and you're like, wow, I can't believe that happened.
There's a lot to be honest with you. But the first one was, I guess, one of the biggest ones when I got hired at Marvel. I got hired at DC 15 minutes later.
No way.
Yeah, the Marvel called me up and said, we want to hire you. And I was like, cool. I was all happy. I was like, great. I'm finally at Marvel. I put the phone down, went to go tell everybody, hey, and the phone rings again. I pick it up and it's DC. And they're like, we want to hire you too. I was like, well, wait a second. Can I work in both of you guys? And they're like, yeah, definitely. I was like, okay, I'm happy.
That's
Hung up the
awesome.
phone and we did this little dance in the living room, everybody. Ridiculous. That party didn't stop for like 3 days.
Oh, dude, I can only imagine.
So that was memorable, and meeting Gene Colan and him taking interest in me, that was memorable. Meeting Jack Kirby,
Yeah.
spending a whole afternoon with Stan Lee, which was fun.
Oh.
Got to spend an afternoon listening to Stan. That was interesting.
Oh, I bet. I met him for 5 seconds at a convention, long enough to do like a quick picture, say hi, and then they kind of shuffle you along. So I'm definitely a little envious there that you got to spend some time with him.
Well, it was me, Mike Mignola, who did Hellboy.
Nice.
We were at a show, and here comes Stan and stuff, and then they were like, well, we're having a charity auction. This is just funny. And they said, we're having a charity auction. We need you guys to sign something. And we were like, we weren't in the dealer's room. We were out in the hallway.
Oh
And we
wow.
were just jabbing away. And we were like, what do we sign? I got nothing. I got a pen. Give me something to sign. I think it was Stan who reached over and grabbed an orange out of a fruit basket. And we said, fuck it. We all signed the orange. Me, Stan, Mike, and Stan was like, well, that thing's going to go for a lot of money. I was like, it's a fucking orange, Stan. He's like, it'll go. And they auctioned the orange off. I forget how much the damn orange went for, an incredible amount of money.
But he was right, wasn't he?
Yeah, I was like, well, yeah, it's because Stan signed it, not because of us. Well, maybe Mike too, but I was like,
I don't
I don't give a shit.
know.
I signed an orange with Stan Lee. I'm happy. The stupidest thing, sign an orange.
It's definitely one of the more unique items I've heard that's been signed.
I saw it years later. The orange didn't rot. Somebody got it. Whoever bought that damn orange put it in a looked like a tesseract cube. And
Really?
yeah, the guy had it like molded into a big square clear thing, and it was like, there's the damn orange.
Wow, and it stayed preserved.
Yeah, I thought it was funny. It was like, here's the, years later, it was like a tesseract cube with an orange. There you go.
And you see it and you're like, wow, that's a that's a memory right there.
I was like, man, never count out the fans. They'll do, they'll come up with creative things.
Dude, fans are not like fans in general are an amazing breed unto themselves, but comic book fans are a whole other breed of people. That is for sure.
Yeah, but I still say comic book fans are more together than some of the fans I've met on the road with bands.
Yes.
That's a whole nother level of crazy.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, there's some stories I will never tell. I'll take to my grave.
And those are usually the best stories too, are the ones that you can't talk about, that you can't, sit around the campfire and shoot the shit about. Those are the ones that you just kind of keep in, but you think about them once in a while, and every once in a while you kind of laugh to yourself about them.
Yeah, I met this guy who did like a talk show out of Mexico. He was like number one guy in Mexico. And we sat down and we talked for like an hour. And he said,
Nice.
holy shit. He goes, let me get a piece of paper. I want to write this shit down. I was like, no, 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 no. You can't do that, dude.
Those are the stories that don't get told publicly.
I was like, I ain't getting sued. Shut up. Like, this is a whole damn book. I was like, yeah, book that's going to stay buried with me.
Well, I was gonna say, have you thought about doing some type of memoirs and changing the names or anything so that those folks don't get
There's
outed?
Yeah, sometimes. And then I think to myself, I'd probably piss off a lot of people. For some reason, I always found myself in the weirdest places with the weirdest. I ended up at a goth club with Len Wein, the guy who created Swamp Thing
Yeah.
and Wolverine. And we ended up at a goth club one night. So me, him, and Bob Burden. What does that tell you? I always find myself in these weird places with the crazy people going, "The hell are you doing at a goth club with Len Wein?" Drinking.
It happens. It happens. It's one of those magical things where sometimes that's where you end up.
And getting donuts at 3 a.m. Yeah,
Again, it makes perfect sense.
exactly. Well, it's just me. I bring craziness to this world, I guess.
That's okay. I think everybody needs a little craziness in their lives. There's nothing
I don't
wrong
know. I
with
guess
that.
they look at the long hair and think he's going to get us in trouble. So let's just go at him, blame him for anything that goes wrong. We'll just say it's the guy with the long hair. He did all this shit.
Right? When we get caught, it's not me, it's him. Just gonna
It's
leave it at
always
that.
been that way. I'm so used to it. I'm like,
Oh no. Now you need to find someone with even longer hair so that you can blame him, so that it's not you, it's the guy with the super long hair, and then you get off
oh
scot
yeah,
free.
oh yeah. And people usually will buy that story. It's like I've had stories come to from people, fans talking about stories from people, and I'm like, I wasn't there. Well, they said you were. I was like, no, you bought it. Well, look at you now. Okay, we'll just go with that.
Now, you've also, not only are you a talented artist, but you've also co-created a comic. You've co-created Marvel's Force Works.
Yeah, that was
How
crazy.
did that happen? First of all,
When I got hired at Marvel, I first was actually, it's funny, I almost ended up on an X-Men book.
really?
Yeah, and then Neil Yontov, who is the editor of the Avengers and Iron Man, said, "Well, how about this? I got a different offer for you." I had offers from the different Marvel offices, and he said,
Oh, wow.
"We're going to do a #1, and you'll do a #1 issue."
Very
And
cool.
I was like, "Okay, fill me in." So I got to work with Dan Abnett and Andy Lanning, who are like fantastic writers, great writers, legendary now.
Wow.
But when I signed on to the book, we were like sitting here, they were telling me about it. And I always looked at it like this: the Avengers were like wine, and Forceworks was like a shot of whiskey. Because we were like, this is going to be dirty, this is going to be gritty, and I was like, I had to figure out an art style to match the feel of the book because they were like the Avengers with no rules, and
Nice.
we were ahead of the curve because most superhero groups were like led by some dominant male figure.
Yeah.
We had Scarlet Witch in charge. We were like, we
Which is
had this
awesome.
strong, powerful woman in charge of everything. We had a female figure in charge of all these big, sweaty guys, muscular guys, and she was like in charge.
And
But
I think it was needed too at that point, where it was good to have that type of character out front.
yeah, we needed that. I think it was a good change. That was Dan and Andy going ahead and saying we want to make a strong female figure in comics, and they really centered in on Scarlet Witch, and
Nice.
so I thought that was great because I loved the character.
Mm-hmm.
But then, okay, well, in comic books, when I used to listen to fans, there'd always be these fans talking about creators that killed characters,
Yeah.
and you always hear them go, "Those fuckers who killed characters, those fuckers," and I was like, "Oh shit."
I don't want
And
to
then
be that. I don't want to be one of those.
right, and then they go, "Well, we're going to kill Wonder Man in the first issue." It's like, what? And they're like, "Yeah, we're going to kill Wonder Man." I was like, "Oh,
Damn,
great!
off
I
the
get to
bat.
join the club of those fuckers. That's nice." The most beloved character going on, I get to kill him, and not even nicely. We get to just blow his ass to hell. Oh, that's nice.
Jesus.
So we did that, and of course, some of the fans wanted to hang me. I was
Well,
like, "Hey,
yeah.
my idea."
I just did
Then
what
we
I
had,
was told on that one.
yeah. So I got to join the those fuckers group real
No.
fast. So that was interesting.
Now I've got, just to kind of show some of the folks who may not have seen these, I do have one of the covers here.
Yeah, and there he was, right there in the corner. And we did it. Then they decided they wanted to do the pop up of the cover of Wonder Man dying. I was like that.
Oh, that's so dirty.
So let's just underscore you killing this character. I was like, great.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate you. Thanks a lot.
But you know, we got we had to get the U.S. agent, and they said, well, we're going to redesign him because you know he's popular now because of the Falcon and Winter Soldier series.
Oh yeah.
But when we redesigned him, we were like, well, we want to make him our own, so we took him out of the black costume, and I had like all these designs. And Editor goes, that's the weirdest freaking mask I've ever seen. I said, yeah. He goes, let's go with that. And I was like, are you sure? He goes,
Perfect.
yeah, let's go with that. We'll just drive people crazy with a weird mask. I was like, all right, let's just do that then.
And sometimes that works best. You find that weird thing, and that tends to actually be like a very good thing in some scenarios.
Well, yeah, and then they wanted me to create the alien century, and I was like, well, see, people don't look at comics the way they were back then. You have to think about it from an artist's point of view, because there was no digital coloring.
Right.
And when you draw in a comic book, you had to think ahead. And one thing I learned from Gene Colan's think ahead, think ahead. So when you're a penciler, you got to think ahead of how the finished product is going to be, even the coloring.
Right.
And you don't want a massive, you know, you got Scarlet Witch in red, you got Iron Man in red, and you got Spider Woman in black, and you got all these, and they got to separate, or you're just going to look like a clump of color, one color.
Right.
So when it came to Century, I was like, well, we got reds and we got this, and I didn't want a green freaking alien. Everybody had a green alien.
Yeah.
So I said, let's make him gray and purple. It's the other colors that left. That's how he ended up gray and purple. And I was like, well, let's just. Everybody thought he had these tattoos, but actually it was supposed to light up like Tron, the red on his face.
That's kind of cool.
But we couldn't do it in the coloring back then. So.
Yeah.
But everything that was red on his face and his chest was supposed to be like neon lights.
Oh, okay.
But it didn't come across because of the coloring back then.
Have you thought about going back and kind of redoing it to how it was intended initially, like back then?
One of the things I'm working on now is I've got a writer, and we're working on bringing Century back.
Oh, that's awesome.
and working on how we're gonna. I hate multiverses for some reason. I just sick of it. I'm sick of multiverses.
Yeah, it's I mean it's nice in the sense that it kind of opens it up for infinite possibilities, but in the same breath it opens it up for infinite possibilities.
Well, the problem with multiverses is that if you're like, I always tell people, fans of the comics and fans of the MCU get confused. They don't really follow it.
Right.
And you start throwing out 3 million Batmans from Batman World 2, 3, 4. Like, who the frick is Batman now? And let's introduce 100 million Spider-Mans and 100. It just gets so convoluted for people that are casual fans that they
Yeah.
can't follow it.
It gets to
And
be too much.
yeah, and then one thing Gene Colan always said was keep it simple. It's just you got to keep stories simple. You're just going to lose people along the way. And I agree with that.
I do too. When it gets to the point where it's too much and there's too many of the multiverses and this reality and that reality, it it takes me out of it. Like I tend to just kind of stop because I'm like, all right, listen, we're going way out of left field. My brain hurts from trying to follow some of this stuff. So I agree with that completely. I like it when it's just simple.
Yeah, it's just too convoluted, and it's just I can't follow what's going on, and I just think, this is entertainment, not geometry,
Work.
not, you know, we're not doing, these big complicated problems of who's here from whose earth. Of screw that. Let's just keep it simple.
And that's the best way to do it sometimes, you
Yeah, and I
know?
think Marvel should introduce. I've told Marvel, I've said it for years. Why isn't there an MCU line of comics? You've got the regular comics on the shelf right now. Do a line on the MCU where there were stories from between the movies. Let's just do an MCU version, and
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I think it would be good for fans to kind of assimilate them into the comic history through the MCU comics. So, but who am
Absolutely.
I? I'm just an artist.
And they should listen to you because that's an excellent idea.
It would be fun, that's for sure.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. Now, I do need to ask, and it's my own personal curiosity, and I always like to ask this when I have different artists on. Do you have a preferred medium that you work in?
I like doing pencil work in comics, but it's got kind of gotten to the point where you're doing traditional work
Nice.
and people are doing more digital. But I like the feel of working on paper. I like to be able to draw something or paint something on canvas and be able to have that art. It's a legacy. It's a footprint,
Yeah.
and it's something that the fans can own.
Yes.
They see the work and they can feel the work. I mean, I know that some people go, it doesn't matter nowadays, but to me,
It does.
I, I mean, I don't want to go to a museum of prints. You know,
Yeah.
I want to see the texture. I want to see the work and the thought behind the work. It's there, and that's so when I paint, I use acrylics, and
Nice.
when I like with the alien stuff.
Yeah.
But you know, my inspiration was John Berkey, who did a lot of the '70s movie posters.
Oh, okay.
And he did like Kong and some of the Star Wars, a lot of science fiction. But when I was over in Japan one time, I met a street artist and probably the most talented painter I've ever met in my life. And he had screens and styrofoam cups and all this stuff laid out. And I was like, "What are you doing?" It's like, "Well, you do this and this and this." Like Mr. Miyagi of paint. And he's like, "Art has no rules." And I picked up on all that stuff and I incorporate those techniques he taught me right there on the street, how to paint. And I use that when I'm doing like alien paintings. I'll take like a screen up a window and I'll slap it down and I'll throw some paint over it, lift it up, and I want a circle. I'll grab a styrofoam cup, plop it in paint, plop it on the canvas. People are like, "That's a perfect circle." I'm like, "No, it's a perfect styrofoam cup." But it is. It works.
And I do have some of the alien work that you've done here, which is, oh my god, dude, it's so pretty. Like I am a big
Oh,
fan
thank you.
of all of them. I think that they're outstanding. Do you have and I know I've got some people asking, do you have a website or anything where you're selling your prints off of?
I had a website, but I took it down because it just started getting too complicated, and my time was getting so bad. I didn't have anybody to run it,
Gotcha.
and I got to the point where it's like I can't keep up with this. So I basically just stuck with social media.
Okay. Sometimes that works out too.
Yeah, I think a lot of people want me to bring it back. I'm just like, well, if I get somebody to take over and run the dang thing, yeah.
That's what I was gonna say. You gotta find like a web person just to handle that for you, so you don't have to spend your time, dorking around with it.
Yeah, when we had the music company, I handled all of that stuff, and for the music, we had this company GMS, and I handled all of that. And I was like,
Wow.
too much work for me to do that, and then go out to meet bands and then book bands. I was like, yeah, this is getting too out of control.
No, that's a lot of work for sure.
Yeah,
Jeez, man.
a lot of 80-hour weeks.
Yeah, those are not fun. I don't care what anyone says. Those are not fun no matter what you do. You know?
And lately, I've just been so accident prone. Everything, well, not really me with a car accident like a couple of weeks ago, but
Yeah, are you feeling better? Are you all right?
well, when I we got we got sideswiped by the other car, it was both their fault. So I just
Oof.
happened to be in the middle between two cars,
Oh no.
and they had. I thought I was fine, but they wanted to check me out, and they thought it was a mild concussion.
Yeah.
But then I came home, and I just couldn't get my head straight. And then I found out later it was not. It was uh, worse concussion than I thought. So
Oh
I was like,
no.
I would start getting dizzy and lightheaded every once in a while. I was like, this is not right.
This is not what I am. Oh
Uh,
no.
yeah, but I've been getting better. I
Okay.
feel a lot better than I did then because I was just not feeling. You just can't get your mind focused. And I was like, yeah, I
Yeah.
got a good hit. Yeah, I'm better.
I'm glad you're getting back to you. That's a huge thing, of course. Jesus, man, I'm so sorry. That's horrible, but I'm glad you're getting better.
Oh, thank you.
I do have some questions coming in from the chat room if you don't mind.
Sure.
I've got a couple of people asking what work you did for AC/DC, like which albums were they singles?
Well, it was funny. What happened is when I was working for Rob Layfield's Extreme Studios over in Image,
Oh wow, okay.
and that's where I met Brian Whitten, and that goes with the whole creep show thing. And when I got through, we had done a comic. We were going to do a Marvel comic on AC/DC.
Nice.
I drew it. It was like Marvel's rock line of comics.
Yeah.
So I drew the AC/DC comic. And then for some reason, this whole story is convoluted. What happened? I don't know. The label wanted more, or Marvel wanted more, or whatever the hell happened.
Oh jeez.
But they couldn't come to terms once the book was done about releasing it, and then the book ended up in the shelf. So they shelved it.
Oh, it's
But
so lame.
yeah, but the label liked what I'd done with the comic because I changed a little Force Works look. It was like a story of a detective and AC. It was crazy.
Oh, that's awesome. Sounds awesome.
And they said, well, can you do the inside, some interior work for the Ball Breaker CD? And I was like, sure.
Awesome.
And then they were like, can you do the release of, what was it, Hard as Rock? Can you do the cover for it? I was like, sure.
So you still got to do some work with them that's still out there as opposed to being shelved.
Yeah, the thing is the AC/DC comic was really, really good. I thought it was interesting. I just wish we just talked about it. What was it, 2015? I was talking to Marvel about it again. I was like, can you guys ever find this?
Yeah, make it happen, even if it's just a one-off, man.
Yeah, it was very, very interesting. But I know they were like, no. No. Like, okay. I guess they didn't want to bother with the rock line.
Oh, I'm sure it would have been awesome. I'm bummed nobody got to actually see it, you know?
Yeah, it was interesting, and it all tied into Ball Breaker. But I couldn't tell you the whole story. All I remember was there was a female detective, and it dealt with the band and demons, and devil and music.
So it was a perfect rock comic, is what I'm hearing.
It was definitely metal. Well, hard rock. It was definitely weird.
Oh
I think fans would
man,
have liked it.
I'm sure they would have. I'm sure they would have loved it.
Yeah,
Maybe one day they'll find it on the shelf and they'll be like, you know what? Let's just put this out here.
yeah. I just wish somebody would tell me what the hell really happened. Nobody remembers. Everybody's like, "Yeah, damn. Now you bring. I remember working on that." I'm like, "Jeez,
Oh, that's a bummer, man. I'm sorry.
hey, I got paid. I don't care now." It's like, what can I do?
Look,
The boys liked it. That's all that matters. As long
there
as
you
they like,
go.
man, that was what counted.
And they liked it enough to have you do more work for them. So I mean, that's huge.
Yeah, yeah, that was the important thing because I grew up listening to their music, so it was like actually working for the guys, the boys. It was great.
That had to have been such a trip. Like listening to them and then them hitting you up, going, "Hey, we want you to do some artwork."
Yeah, exactly. That was like I got this letter. I was like, holy shit. Back then there was no email. It was an actual letter from them.
Yep.
And I was like, oh shit, hey, I got fans, and they're actually somebody I respect. Okay, yeah, definitely, I'm on board.
That's.
Give
Would
me
you have
all your
ever
best.
thought that you would have worked with them?
No, everybody thought I'd end up working with Kiss, to be honest with you, because I was such a Kiss fan growing up, and then I was like, I met all the over time, I met all the members, and I met Ace Frehley, and I was like, everybody's like, you're gonna end up working with these guys, aren't you? And I was like, maybe one day, but then here I am working with ACDC. I was like, not a bad exchange.
No, not at all.
I couldn't become a musician, but I could work for them.
And that's, I mean, I think that that's very just as good, personally.
And it was funny. I started writing reviews for bands, and all of a sudden they started ending up on websites. And I was like, I'm reviewing albums, and everybody was liking my reviews. And all of a sudden,
Nice.
it's really crazy how many bands I was reviewing, and they're asking for me personally. I was like, cool, I'm dealing with this.
That's awesome.
I got to meet Lemmy that way.
Oh, wow. Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, he was fun.
Now, you mentioned Creep Show, and I wanted to ask you about that. How did your involvement with that happen? And I mean, A, the artwork is amazing, and B, like, how did that come about?
I when I worked at Image, um, it was we had I had a great anchor and Jamie Mendoza and Kurt Hathaway, Eric Stevenson, but the writer was a guy named Brian Whitten,
Yeah.
and he worked in Hollywood. He was writing Chapel, and we became instant friends. And Brian, he also did The Wedding Singer, and he
Mm-hmm.
did Dark City, and we were instant friends, and we wanted to work together again. And I was involved in stuff, and he was doing all his stuff, heavy metal. Gee, Brian's got mad. He's got the golden touch.
Nice. Yes, yes, he
And,
does.
and then Brian's like, well, we're going to do Creep Show, me and Greg Nicotero. And I was like, wait a second. I love the two first films. Wait a second.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Like, I want in.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, you want to work together again? Yeah, who doesn't want to work with Greg Nicotero? He's a genius.
Yes, he is. I'm a big fan of his, that's for sure.
And the thing was, working on Creepshow was great because it was working with Brian again, which I loved working with Brian. He's such a good guy. Greg is just so focused on stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing to watch his focus and just see how he just wants everything to work. And he's got just he's methodical about it.
Yeah.
And then there was Stan Spry with Cartel Entertainment. Stan's another guy that's just amazing. And High Tide and all the guys there. And I got to work, and I was glad I got to work on an episode with DJ Qualls because I just love DJ Qualls. So,
Nice.
and who doesn't love DJ Qualls? And then there was Joe Hill and then the artists that they had come in, like Kelly Jones, who in my opinion is the very best horror artist on the planet today. And they had Jim Terry and Marvel legend Ron Friends, Michael Broom, Kevin West, fresh off with the Iron Maiden comic.
Jeez,
Great
man.
talent, full of So I was like happy to be part of it and work with Brian, and me and Brian worked together on it. Get it? Brian knew what he wanted, and since I learned under Gene Colan, I had to go back to that EC comic style for it. So it was trying to find my niche with Creepshow
Yeah.
because I didn't want it to be like detailed. We had a, we wanted to go back to that '70s style.
Yeah. We got some imagery here. We pulled
Yeah,
up.
I had drawn the Creepshow piece, the black and white one there, for just for to get a feel for the character.
Yeah.
And then I ended up doing like the in between of episodes, and I slid that in as a comic cover. It's like that's going to be a comic cover.
Nice. That's
Well, it's going to go
awesome.
in between episodes. And this other one with the lightsaber was done for May the Fourth be with you. And I thought, Creep is a Sith. It works for me. So
Oh, he's a total Sith Lord. That's no question about it, man.
he worked well for that. I thought Darth Creep. I don't know.
Now, do you know, or can you mention, are they doing a third season?
Yes.
Awesome. Yay. Are you going to be involved with that also?
Um, um,
Maybe.
You never know. You never know what goes on. It's there. The pandemic threw a lot of things off
Yeah.
with it, and these guys were still. I mean, the Creep Show guys are so dedicated to it that they want to get it right, and they work through stuff like that, even though they couldn't do as much as they could if there wasn't a pandemic. But
Right.
I give it up to Greg. He was making spiders and you know, and all kinds of stuff. I mean, Greg just doesn't take his foot off the gas.
Yeah, he's constant go 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 man, which is awesome.
Yeah, he's like I said, he's dedicated to getting a good product out.
Yeah.
And I think Greg, when he gets involved in something, he really wants to stick to the source material, and he's really good about that. I really like his focus. He's very focused in on stuff. You don't really come across people; they're all over the place. But Greg, when
Right.
he's on something, he's on it.
He dials it in and that's it.
Yeah, definitely.
Dude, that's awesome. I've got some folks asking when your next appearance is going to be. I guess there was a convention in Jacksonville, but unfortunately, due to the car accident, you weren't able to attend. So I've got some people asking, where are you going to be at next?
I, I'm not sure yet. I'm trying to figure that out myself because everybody wants to be down at Spooky for the big Halloween show. I've
Yeah.
been there twice, and then because last year I missed. Everybody wants to be down at Spooky again.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll see if that works out. I know I'll be doing ACC again with Max Michaels,
Awesome.
and I don't know about what's going to happen with JekyllCon.
Yeah.
And I've got invites. I'm just kind of going through them. I get a lot of invites from overseas now, so it's like people
Oh,
want me
wow.
overseas. So I'm German, so people always, for some reason, everybody thinks I'm British, which I'm not. Because I worked with so many British artists and British
They just kind of
2008.
lump you in.
Yeah, everybody does that. And everybody's always like, well, he worked on 2000 AD characters, and he's worked with, Lanning and Abnett, so they're English, and so they always think I'm going to have some British accent. I'm like, no, this is German kid from Jersey. Yeah.
Sorry to disappoint you guys. This is me.
Yeah, so they're like, well, we got to get you over to Germany, and I'm like, I've been there, but yeah, okay, sure.
Might as well go back and visit, right?
I got enough relatives over there; they'd fill the convention hall alone.
There you go, man. Jeez. It's like a little family reunion to go home to.
Yeah, no kidding.
I got a couple more questions coming in from the chat room. Got Jared's asking, have you ever worked with Bernie Wrightson?
No, I didn't. I never even got to meet Bernie.
Okay.
I never got to meet Bernie. I almost had a chance to meet him, but I didn't. And Bernie Wrightson, him and Gene Colan were the king of horror art for comics.
Yeah.
But learning under Gene had a real respect for Bernie, and everything I've heard about Bernie, Len Wein talks so highly of him. He was. I would have liked to have met Bernie, but I just never got the chance.
I'm sorry. That's unfortunate.
and sad that he passed away. Bernie was, he was incredible. He's an incredible artist.
Yeah. All right, let's see here. Now, I know we chatted briefly before we started. So are there any upcoming projects that you have that you can chat about?
I've got, well, there's something I'm working on that's big.
That's all we're getting. It's big.
It's a very big project that I think a lot of horror fans are gonna love. That's all I can say.
Okay.
It's not too much terror. That's another thing I'm working on with Kevin Tenney, who did Witchboard and Night
Oh,
of the Demons.
cool.
I'm working on that with him.
Nice.
I'm working on doing work on another show. But that'll be later.
Okay.
And I'm working on one other show with my buddy, Michael Ornstein. If people may know him as Chucky from Sons of Anarchy and Mayans MC.
Yes.
We're working on pushing a show together.
Oh, very cool.
And it's not a typical show. We talked about this a little.
Yes.
It's not a typical show. It's a little different than what people will get. It's an interesting concept. We've got some bites on it. I want Michael. Michael's a perfect host. Michael's a good buddy of mine. He's just fantastic. So yeah, I love the idea that goes through. I think it's going to be a really big hit. So
Nice.
Everybody that's heard about it has jumped like crazy. Get it going, get it going. I finally just put it all together.
Nice.
Sat down with Michael. Me and Michael talked it out, and I was like, if there's no better host in the world, it's Michael Ornstein. This guy is Mr. Charisma. I mean,
Dude.
Michael is he's a good friend of mine. I love him to death. And hopefully we get this through. I think people will really, really enjoy what we're going to do.
I hope it works out. I hope everything comes to fruition and it goes off without a hitch.
Yeah, and then I'm working on putting this Century thing together. Everybody wants that character back in Marvel, and
Yep.
I'm pushing for Forceworks to be made and go on to the MCU. I'm pushing the hell out of it.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Well, because everybody wants the Thunderbolts. I'm like, okay, whatever. Forceworks is a better direction. It's a better direction. It makes more sense. So I'm going to push the hell out of it.
Do it, man.
I'd love to get Malcolm Spellman on it. I've talked to Malcolm briefly, and Malcolm, who did the Falcon and Winter Soldier, Malcolm does so well. I love what he did with the Falcon and Winter Soldier storyline.
Yeah.
I admire his work. The guy's just an incredible writer. So I'd love to see Malcolm do something with Forceworks. I can't wait to see what he's got for the Captain America 4 movie. I know he's going to knock it out of the park.
I'm very, very excited.
Yeah.
Very excited.
Talk about a focused guy. There's a focused guy. There's a focused talent.
Dude, that's awesome. Well, I'm happy that you've got so many different pots brewing with different things that we'll be able to see and hopefully enjoy soon. That's for sure.
I try to keep myself busy, sometimes too busy.
Is there ever too busy though?
Yeah, when you get slapped in the head and it's like, I'm here, and I'm like, oh yeah, fuck. Yeah.
Oh yeah, whoopsies.
Don't forget about me. And then when I start missing movies and people, I'm like 3 weeks behind on like a series. I'm like, people are like, why don't have you watch a series? I'm like, I can hear it. I can't watch it. I'm an artist. I need to look this way.
Yeah, I'm good with lists. That's how I catch up on a lot of shows. I'm gonna out myself right now. I work in insurance as my day job outside of the whole horror fun thing that I get to do. So during my day job, as I'm working and doing the mindless insurance stuff, I sit there and I listen to all types of different films and TV shows. So that's how I kind of catch up on things, as I multitask during the day.
People ask me all the time, how can you do that? And you know what I mean. You just you kind of glance over and it's like I have a visual of what's going on.
Yeah.
All the voices are a filler. You get used to it. You know?
Absolutely. And especially if, you're working on something else, but you've still got that, you can still hear it and you get your own visual of it. as
Yeah,
well, which
exactly.
sometimes is better. With some
In some
things,
cases,
it's a lot better.
well, I was like with WandaVision and like the Falcon and Winter Soldier. I was actually scheduling an hour every night before I went to bed to make sure I watched it. I was like,
Nice.
I'm definitely going to watch this. But Christina has this joke about calling me the Elf King and Marvel, and she calls me Marvel Man. She's even got a theme song for me.
That's awesome.
So she's always like, she used to be into DC Comics, so it's like, she goes, I can't. Now I love Marvel, and it's all your fault. You're like you're driving the Marvel train and pulling everybody in behind you. And I'm like, oh, jeez.
Like, sorry,
So
not sorry?
I was like the Marvel Man. It's weird. And being where I am now, like, I get recognized at places. Like, I got recognized at a Walmart one day. And this
Nice.
guy, he recognized, there was like an article about AC/DC and me. Weird.
Really?
Yeah, the guy recognized me at a Walmart of all the things in the world.
I was gonna say, of all the places, it's
Yeah,
in a
and then he
Walmart.
wouldn't leave me alone at the register. He was
Oh
like bugging me.
no.
And then I was like, I gotta get gas, and the guy was following me home. Him and his
Oh,
wife.
that's a little creepy.
Oh, I've had that happen like more times than I've had people knock on my
Dude.
door at 3 o'clock in the morning. I was like,
Dude, no. Again, comic
yeah.
fans are a whole other breed.
I've got invited to Christmas parties where I don't know anybody. Like, I bought your comic. We're having a Christmas party. When it comes, I'm like, who are you?
Who are you, and do I get free gifts?
Oh, I forgot about that. I never thought about that part of it. I was always like, wow.
Who are you, and will there be presents for me? That's what I want to know.
It's always like I asked if there's good eats. But I should have thought about the present idea.
There you go. Good eats is always a good thing too. Good eats and presents.
Yeah. But it's weird. We get these invitations. Me and Christina will get invitations to the weirdest stuff. Like, we get invitations to beach parties sometimes. I'm like, who the hell is this asking us?
Right? Like, do I go to the beach?
I can't drag her to the beach kicking and screaming.
Oh, she's just like me then.
Like, if I wanted sun, I got a backyard. I don't need to go out there for sun. I'm like, yeah, okay.
See, that's a fair point. Just gonna say, that is a fair point.
It's interesting.
Oh, yeah. But now, okay, so have you been invited to like a wedding or anything like that?
Oh, yeah. I've got invited to a bunch of weddings. And over my long career, yeah, I got invited to weddings by people. And it's like, I used to take a buddy of mine sometimes, and we'd pop up at weird little events just to freak people out.
That's awesome. Just kind of show up like, all right, I'm here. What's up?
Oh yeah, my buddy was like, he was like Slash. He had the top hat, all these tattoos, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna bring the wild man with me. So it's like, you really want us here? Look,
Like,
look
all
what I
right.
brought you.
Here, look what I bought for your wedding. You're welcome.
He's the gift that doesn't stop giving. Yeah, just let him near the bar. People would be like, well, I didn't say, you said a +1. This is
You
what
didn't say who.
You look at me, you don't think I have friends like this? You're crazy.
Right? Like, do I look like someone that would have a khaki friend? Just saying.
Yeah, you're not getting Elon Musk with me. You're getting more like Lemmy. I'm bringing the weirdos with me.
There's nothing wrong with that. Ever.
Adds a little spice to a wedding.
Exactly. You have to, because then it gives them something to talk about, and it's a memorable moment. Like, hey, remember when we got married and Thomas showed up with that weird guy? Like, do you remember that? Oh yeah, I got pictures of him. Hold on.
That's a great wedding singer if you like Tool here. Yeah, put that Barbara Streisand stuff away. There you go.
Oh God, yeah, no Barbara Streisand. Jesus, good Lord, no. All right.
I screw with people way too much.
Look, some people need to be screwed with, and it's okay.
Well, you gotta have fun. If you're not having fun, you ain't living. So.
Absolutely, I 100% agree. All right, I've got a couple more questions. I got one more question we're going to take from the chat, and then I got a couple more as well. So I've got Jared's in the chat, and he's asking what your next Max Michaels event is.
ACC, Ancient City Con.
Nice.
So I'll do that with Max. Max is a good guy. I like Max. He's one of the guys I first met when I moved to Florida. And he's always been, Max is, him and Doug Brantley, photographer, and Davis Bastille. Everybody knows him as Bastille.
Yeah.
If you've seen him at conventions, he sticks out with his wolf costume.
Yes.
But yeah, it's I tried to get to ACC. I got there one year and got to meet Laura Wiggins.
Oh, cool.
Who was, she played Karen on Shameless.
Yes.
And we hung out with her all day.
That's awesome.
Laura is she's fun. She's fun to be around. She's interesting. She's fun. Laura's just great. She just had us cracking up all afternoon.
That's awesome.
I met her in Ancient City, and we just became friends. And I loved being around her. She can entertain you.
Oh, see, that's cool. I love when you get to meet people like that, and they're just very, what's the word? Like, they're willing to actually talk and to hang out and to have a good time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and she loves the fans. That's what's good.
Yes.
I've seen some people be so standoffish.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
Yeah, but she just loves the fans. She just takes right to them. She's got a great personality. She's great at shows because of that personality.
Yeah. See, that makes me happy. I love hearing that about people.
She's down to earth. That's the thing about her. She's a talented actress, but she's real down to earth.
See, that's awesome. I love that.
So I wouldn't mind seeing her back at a show. And I got to meet Clive Barker at Spooky, and we became friends. I love Clive.
Dude, he was so awesome. We got to meet him at Spooky as well. And my husband has I forget which book he has, but he has one of the books. And many a moon ago, my husband and some friends turned me into a female Cenobite. She's one of my favorite things ever. So when we met Clive Barker, he was showing him pictures of what he created, and Clive was just so sweet and just took the time and looked at it and was zooming in and looking at like the prosthetics and stuff that my husband made. And he took the book that we were having him sign, and he just started drawing like all over the book. I lost my damn mind. I was trying so hard not to jump up and down and squeal like a 2-year-old. It was ridiculous. So I just sat there like, oh my god, he's drawing in your book right now. This is awesome. So I mean, he was a sweetheart. He's very, very cool.
We ended up talking about art, and people would think you'd be talking about horror movies, but I started talking to Clive, and we just went on and on about art. And I was just like, I love talking about art with Clive. It was great.
That's awesome.
I got to meet Sid before he died.
Yeah.
So, Spooky has a lot of good guests,
Yeah, they do.
Petey runs a good show. He puts everything together. What I like about Petey, he keeps a tight ship, and he's always got real good bookings. I love how he handles the guests he gets in. He really gets really good guys out there, really good people.
Oh yeah, he's a good dude, and he's always like hustling too. Like, I love it because you see him and he's like the Flash. He's gone in a second because he's just working and making things happen, and he cares about the fans. Like, there's not a lot of conventions that are like that anymore, so it's nice to have a promoter who cares about the fans and genuinely wants to bring good guests and everybody to have a good time,
Yeah, and I think he keeps. I remember being at one show and the whole Elvira Funko.
Oh disaster. Yeah.
And Petey kept it together.
Yes. Yeah.
So I mean, I know a lot of promoters would drop the ball on that. He kept everything. He ran a tight ship on it. So
he did a great job.
I gotta give him credit for handling that the way he did.
Yeah.
So, but I love going to the Spooky because when you got a guy who knows how to run a show like that and keeps it all together, you're always glad to be there, and he always takes care of his guests. So.
Yep, absolutely.
So
we would not work with him if he was not the way that he is. That's for sure.
So all the credit in the world to Petey for that. So
definitely. That's awesome. Now, I do have to ask, because this is my final question for you this evening as we're chatting. First of all, thank you for coming on and talking with us this evening and letting us get to know you and a little bit more about your work and all the fun things that you've done, man. I'm a little jealous, first of all. So I love to ask this question because it kind of helps me to see where you're at in your fandom of all things that are spooky and creepy. What's your favorite horror movie?
it'd have to be a tie between the original Halloween and The Thing.
They're so good. Both are so good.
The original Halloween, I was just talking about that with somebody today. The original Halloween actually set up the modern day horror characters because before that, there was, the Universal monsters.
Yes.
Michael Myers set the bar because people may say Leatherface, and I say no because there wasn't a sequel to Leatherface
Right.
right off the bat, but there was a sequel to Halloween.
Yeah.
And he set the bar for the Freddys and the Jasons. You know, it was Michael Myers, and it was something as so simple as a Captain Kirk mask. You know,
I love seeing people's faces when they find out that that's actually what the Mike Myers mask is. It's like, oh yeah, that's Captain Kirk, and they're like, no, it's not. And it's like, oh, but it is.
and who else would think of that but the creative mind of John Carpenter?
That man. I am such a Carpenter fan. It's ridiculous. Anything he does, I'm just like, oh, yes, give me more.
Oh, that's why I loved working on I did this thing art, and that was great because when I did that, I was like, I started getting to know some of the actors from the film
That's cool.
because of the art, and I became friends with Thomas Waits, who plays Windows in the thing.
Oh, nice.
So Thomas is a friend of mine, and he's also been in like Dog Day Afternoon, The Warriors, which is another film I love, and of course The Thing. And Thomas is like one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. One of the
that's awesome.
people on the planet, and he's so humble. And I was like, I'm friends with Windows. I'm friends with fucking Windows. And you talk to him, and this is a guy who, when you talk to him, he's so sweet to people.
Yeah.
I wish I could see him in more shows because I know fans would love this guy. You meet him, and he's if there's a word, if it's adorable. He's an adorable guy.
That's
He's
awesome.
This loving, adorable guy that Christina fell in love. She loves Thomas so much because he's so sweet to her. He's a gentleman, a real.
Very cool.
And it was all because of the Thing art.
See, it's the little. And I'm not saying it's a little thing, but I'm saying it's the things that you don't really think about when you're doing your craft that happen after the fact. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm sure, like, as you were doing it, you weren't like, I'm going to be friends with these guys. This is what's going to happen. So it's nice that through your artwork, you're able to meet and to connect and to make new friends that, maybe you wouldn't have otherwise.
Yeah, I met Kurt Russell once, and Kurt Russell he was really cool.
You're dead to me. You're dead to me. That's it. I'm so jealous.
Met Kurt Russell, and he was like, I said, I loved you in The Thing. He was like, looked at me, and I was like, I bet you thought I was going to say Snake Plissken, and he just laughed. I was like, I love McCready. I don't care. You can have Snake Plissken. I like McCready.
I like them both. I'm a fan of both, but I will tell you this. I am more partial to one Mr. Jack Burton.
And then to think that here it is, I love Kurt Russell, and then his son plays the U.S. agent, who I'm involved in the history of the U.S. agent. I was like, oh, this is too good.
Dude, that's awesome.
It's these weird connections, because like when I was working on Iron Man and at Force Works, I'm working for AC/DC, and then the Iron Man movie comes out, and then it's got AC/DC on the soundtrack. Fans were going, did you have anything to do with that? I was like, fuck no, but I love it.
Like, no, but maybe subconsciously.
I was like, I had this AC/DC shirt with Iron Man on it. Hey, two for one on the shirt.
There you go, man.
But yeah, when it comes to horror movies, I'm very particular, but Carpenter is like the top for me. I just love John's work. And I did get to meet him, and I told him that. And John just looked at me, and I said, Halloween. And the thing, I don't, fog, cool, okay. But, yeah, two best horror movies ever. Just
Both
in my opinion.
Oh no, I agree. I watch Halloween probably far more than any normal person should.
I know. I used to drive Christina crazy with it. She's like, okay, you know he dies. I'm like, not really.
But no, he doesn't.
And then I'm sitting there talking about the complex story of the Thorn storyline and where'd that go? People are like, you got way too much time on your hands. I'm like, yeah, I guess so.
Good imagination as well. Now, where can people follow you on social media? Not like physically follow you, like to 7-Eleven or anything, but like if folks want to see more of you and your work that you're sharing out and updates for the projects that you've got coming up, where can people find you?
You can find me on Facebook, or you can find me on Instagram at thomas.a.tenney, or Facebook. That's mostly. I try to keep it tight to what it is. I'd make my appearances as much as I can. It's just I get so busy sometimes. I wish I could keep my social media up. I see people putting 10 posts up a day, and I'm like, I'm lucky I get 3.
I'm telling you, man, you got to get one of those little apps where you can just kind of preset it so it'll automatically just start posting for you.
Yeah, but everybody wants to see different art all the time, and I'm like,
yeah.
Sometimes I have to dig back into the, the way back machine and grab something. Go, there you go.
You got to dig through the archives to find it.
No, most of the Forceworks artwork was stolen.
Really?
Yeah, it was stolen in Phoenix, Arizona. The original artwork was stolen at a convention.
Wow, that's dirty, man.
I'd left the table, and they said you could leave things here overnight. And went in there the next day, and somebody rooted a lot of artists' work and just took it. Just took a ton of work.
Wow.
A lot of people.
What an asshole. That's not cool. Dude, there's a special place for people like that.
Yeah, you would think they would have worked better security.
Or like lock the damn door. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's
that could help too.
You're seeing somebody loading their car out of the dealer's room, and they got boxes, and it's the middle of the show. I don't think they're leaving.
No, you would want to question that one. Jesus, man, I didn't know that. That sucks.
Oh yeah, people always ask me for original Forceworks artwork. Somebody's got it probably in some storage unit in Phoenix. For all I know.
Yeah, somebody has it somewhere. Unfortunately, it's not you.
Yeah, but live and learn.
Yeah, Jesus.
Why people always go, well, you're walking around, but you leave your table and you've got your art case with you. I'm like, damn straight.
I ain't losing it again. I learned one time.
I'm not going to leave a security guard at my table.
Right? Like hire your own private dude. Just some random big dude that you met on the street. Like, hey, you want to make $20? Come just stand here.
Yeah, I'll get my buddy from the weddings.
There you go. Even better. Top hat and all.
Hey, wild man, come over here and just watch my table.
Exactly.
Nobody ever stopped by for an autograph.
What happened?
I'll just dress him up like a Wookiee or something. When you stand there, people think, hey, that's cool.
Like
a Wookiee with a top hat. A Wookiee in a top hat. There you go.
That's perfect. All right.
Be the talk of the show.
Oh, he would for sure. He'd be like, did you see that Wookiee with the top hat standing over there? What's that about? Oh.
No. Yep, and a flask in his back pocket.
He smelled a little like Jameson, but that's okay. All right, Thomas. Well, thank you so much for joining me tonight and for chatting and letting us get to know you and some of the amazing things that you have done in your life. I appreciate your time and you coming on just so much. So thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. I had a good time.
Awesome. We'll have to do this again once things start to happen that you can talk about.
No, definitely.
We'll have to have you back on and we'll talk about those horror related thing that you may be doing. If you end up doing more Creep Show, of course.
And we'll see. Like I said, you never know. I always kind of spring this stuff up on people when they're not expecting it. So,
Sometimes a surprise is a good thing.
oh yeah, those are the fun times.
Exactly.
Well,
Well,
I had a good time. I hope everybody enjoyed it.
awesome. Thank you. And thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't done so, make sure that you head over and you follow Thomas on his social media, Instagram, Facebook, all the fun things. Stalk him legally online as people do
Yeah,
nowadays. I guess it's legal stalking, right? Being on the internet
yeah,
because it's already
just
out
not at
there.
Walmart. No more Walmart.
Just not at Walmart or 7-Eleven, please.
Not when I'm getting gas, please.
No. All right, Thomas. Thank you guys for watching. Until next time, boys and girls, make sure you keep it spooky.